Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Scaling a Six-Figure eBay Business. These videos are taking me a little bit longer to get through than I would like, but they are going to be awesome, I think, and they're going to give you guys some real value and some real information that you guys can use to scale your business up. Now, for this topic, we are going to be going over packaging and shipping. So, when we first started out selling on eBay, one of the things that I personally had a really hard time getting past was the ability to get our packages out, right? I up until that point, I thought I was really good at packaging stuff. I could ship packages off to family members, friends, and I did just fine, I thought. Um, as our business grew, I realized that I was the choke point. It was me trying to package and do all these things. It wasn't that I was overly slow. I didn't feel like I was, but I definitely was not fast. So when I looked at selling 20, 30, 40, 50, even 100 packages or more on eBay, I got scared because I didn't know how we were going to do that, right? Everything you look at and everything we've talked about is like this big huge funnel, I guess, right? So you have this right here. And anywhere in here there can become choke points that are going to cut back your flow of what you're able to accomplish. And our goal with all of this is to help you remove as many of these choke points as possible, figuring out a way to do your listings efficiently and in a way to where you can maximize your time. The way to store your inventory so that you don't have to go find items, right where they are, right? And so the whole goal about this is to make this to where it's no longer a funnel. It's just one big huge lane where you can just get on it and you can just cruise down it. That's our goal. That's our key. That's what we want to have happen. So, with that being said, here I am early on in our business. I am panicked about packaging and shipping. And so I approached it in the same way I did everything else I've ever done my entire life is, okay, this is the activity. How do I get faster? How do I get better? And so that's what I started with, right? When we first started out, we were printing labels off on a standard printer, cutting the labels out, taping them to the box. That was okay and it worked when we started beginning, but it doesn't work once you go past a certain amount of items. And it really doesn't work from the beginning. You want that professional label look of using a label printer. So, one of the first things that I'm going to suggest to you is to purchase a label printer. That was one of our biggest time consumers when we were building our business, right? With eBay, when we were packaging, that label printer was what really caused us issues, or the lack thereof. You cut these papers on, and I mean, I had the paper chopper and I could do like 20 to 30 pieces of paper at one time. That was all good because we were selling 20 and 30 pieces. But what wasn't good is how long it would take me to print those labels or tape those labels onto those packages without using a label printer. You got to cover every square inch of that label. You got to protect it. You got to make sure it's right. And even then, you're risking getting moisture inside that label. So that would be one of our very first suggestions. If you haven't bought a label printer, needs to be your next purchase. This is going to be one of your big differences between being a six figure and only doing 10, 12, 15,000 over 90 days and getting stuck there. This is going to save you probably the most amount of time in your packaging. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is when we first started out in eBay, right? And a lot of you have probably done this, you've probably been there. You don't have a lot of money. So what do you do for packaging things? Well, you save that Amazon box, you save that Walmart box. Um, your family might be saving packaging material for you, and it works really well, right? You sell an item, you got to go dig the right box out, it fits, you put it in it, and it ships. Now, if you want to reach you've got to figure out how to do that shipping faster. A lot of a lot of sellers never really understand the fact that time is money. With your time that you're investing into your business is money. It is all money. So when you are spending a lot of time on the packaging process, which just so we're clear, it is one of the most important parts that you're going to be doing as well, because realistically, that's your customer's first point of contact, right? Their first, yeah, they make the purchase from you on eBay, but they really don't know you. They really don't trust you. Where they really get to know you is when they open that box up. That is their first point of contact, of real contact with you as a seller. And so it really is a very critical, important part of your business. So one of the things we made the switch to, and we kind of got forced to make this switch. We'd heard people say, well, use better packaging, use this, use that. Okay, okay. Well, finally, we were selling so much stuff that I didn't have time to build boxes. I didn't have time to go around to family and friends and find boxes. When we were selling 20, 30 items a day, it just didn't work. We needed boxes and we needed them today, right? Not having to dig through a huge pile of boxes trying to find that one box. So we started using a company called Uline. Now, two things happened when we started using Uline. Number one, our packaging looked nicer because these were all brand new boxes. And you can say, oh, well, they're too expensive. I can't afford to buy packaging. Yes, you can. If you can afford to have an eBay business, you can afford to buy packaging. It is well worth it, especially on your journey to hitting six figures. You have nice packaging, it shows. Our feedback on eBay, 99% of it is about our packaging, how it looked, how it felt, how well it was, the care we took to package an item. And we reduced our shipping time. So, this right here, before we went to these two things, our shipping time was our shipping time on this was 1 to 2 days for handling time, right? 1 to 2 days for handling time. Now, that's not okay. If we want to be up here, we got to cut that down. We got to have that same day or within 24 hours. So implementing these two things right here saved us a lot of time. Going to Uline, what we started doing, and I know a lot of you may not be 100% there yet, but look at your items and say, what kind of items am I selling? And can I stock 10 different boxes or 5 different boxes or 4 different boxes or 2 different boxes? We stocked a total of 20 different sizes of boxes. That was a lot, but we had a lot of different items throughout our store. Now, it was nice because now we have brand new boxes. So I would pick up, let's say I'm going to sell this book, right? I'm going to ship this book out. And so I pick this book up and I say, okay, this needs to go into a 10 by 6 by 3. And I walk over to my shelf, I grab my box, it's done. I don't have to go and figure out and try to guess what kind of box that book is going to fit into. And I don't have to dig through a big, huge pile of boxes trying to figure that out as well. Also, my customer knows that they're going to get a good quality, high quality box that's going to protect their item. And that's what happens. When we started using Uline, our missing packages dropped. These two things right here dropped our missing packages. So we had far fewer packages go missing. I don't think resellers take that into consideration when they're shipping. Anything and everything that's possible to go wrong with your package could go wrong. If you have a box that's been used a little bit too rough, it's probably going to fall apart. If you don't get this label taped on or put on in the right way, it's probably going to come off. And so these are things that you have to address. If you're not using a label printer, I'm going to tell you, you're probably not where you're going to hit six figures a year in a really fast way. The second thing is packaging from Uline or find somebody similar to Uline. eBay does have some good boxes. Amazon, you can get good boxes from filler material, tape, dispensers, that kind of stuff. Now, the next thing that we did, so let me back up a little bit. When we started packaging, it would take me anywhere from 12 to 18 minutes plus to package an item. Okay, this probably the smaller items that I knew we had boxes for. This would be for a larger one, and there was other stuff that was a lot longer than that. You know, I remember it taking me 45 minutes to an hour, 2 hours to get some stuff done, just because of the fact that it was so big and I had to custom build something for it. Now, this is when we started. Now, by the time we were into August or September, which would have been about month 9, 8, 9, an interesting thing happened. I got better at packaging, and I don't know that it's necessarily that I got better at packaging. I think that I started using the right resources. So, this number, by implementing a label printer, by implementing brand new boxes, good shipping material, at this stage in our business, we used packing paper. You know, we just pull it apart, crumple it up, put it in, and then bubble wrap. You know, if it was breakable, we wrapped it, put it in the packing paper, and it worked really well. Now, we were able to chop this down to between 8 and 12 minutes. That still isn't great, but that's better. You know, 8 to 12 minutes to package an item. Now I could see more how we were going to get 40 packages in a day done, because right, that was my issue, and that's a concern, a real concern for a lot of you guys, is you can't see how am I going to get all these packages shipped out on time? How am I going to get them out in a realistic way, in a realistic fashion? How do you make that happen, right? Um, well, one is you use a label printer, and that cuts a lot of time off of every single label. It helps you be more accurate with your labels. Two, you use Uline, so you're using all one or two or three different sizes of boxes, and you're using brand new packaging material. You don't have to go dig for stuff. You don't have to go try to find stuff. So that shortens your time up. Now, there's a third thing that happened. As we're building this, I had multiple people tell me the volume you're shipping, you should be using peanuts. So we brought in a couple of different companies to look at our packaging process to see if we could transition over to using their boxes. And it was actually a really good thing, because they came in, they had a lot more experience than what we were doing, and they were able to come in, they were able to look at all of our stuff, and they were able to say, look, this is how the big guys do it. This is how this company, that this how this company selling this item, this is how they are packaging thousands of these a day, and let's see what we can do for you. So one of the things that they kept saying is to use peanuts. Now, you can get peanuts that are biodegradable, that are better for the environment. They're made out of cornstarch, and that's what we always used. But I fought it because it was expensive, right? So it was really expensive to use peanuts in my mind, right? It was really, really expensive, and not just the peanuts, but you have to have a dispenser for them as well, and it's big and it takes up a lot of room. Well, we had lots of room. We had a big, huge warehouse. So on our second year, maybe even beginning of our third year, we were given a peanut dispenser. A local business went out of business, and they had a peanut dispenser, and they told us if we wanted it, we could just go pick it up. And so we did. I'm not kidding you guys. That took my shipping times, my personal shipping times were between 3 and 6 minutes by adding in peanuts. 3 to 6 minutes. Look at this. This is how we dropped the stages of it. I can package an item by myself in 3 to 6 minutes, top to bottom. That's a lot. That's a big difference between 12 to 18 minutes. Money equals time, and time equals more money. Okay. How many of you have had to shut down listing items? You haven't made your 10 listings in a day, but you've had to shut down because you know you've got 25 items to go package and you know it's going to take you the rest of the day. So you got to do that. You don't have a choice, right? And so you leave listing and generating income to go package. There's a lot of people that do that. You got to make time for that. If you can take and cut down on how much it takes you to ship an item out, like we did, 3 to 6 minutes from 12 to 18 minutes. Does that mean that everything was that fast? No, sometimes we had bigger items or things that we had to create specific boxes for, right? But 90% of all of our items were that time frame now. We could ship so much stuff, and if we had two or three of us in there shipping at the time, our shipping staff may not have been able to hit 3 to 6 minutes, but they could hit 5 6 minutes per package. Um, so if we can cut this down, then it gives us more time to do the things that create more money, right? Time creates more money. So by implementing this, a label printer, brand new packaging materials, it's easy to figure out what you need, and a peanut machine or some kind of machine to stuff your boxes. We really like the peanut machine. I'm not kidding. If you don't have room, they do make the pillow machines that create pillows, that Amazon uses. You can use those. And then the last thing you have to do, the last thing you have to think about is the space that you're utilizing. Now, this is kind of going to flow into that very last segment that we're going to do about warehousing. So think about that, but be thinking about how you're currently set up to package, and is it the right way? Is it flowing as fast as it could? Are there ways that you handle your packages that are slowing you down and causing you to take longer than what it should? Is there things that you can implement? A label printer, using peanuts, new tape dispensers. It's crazy. I'm not kidding you guys. When you start breaking down a process, and that's all we're doing, right? All we are doing is we are taking a process that takes 12 to 18 minutes, okay? 12 to 18, oops. So we have a 12 to 18-minute process, and we're going to break it down, right? Okay, so we're going to break it down. So what causes us to, okay, so our boxes, this causes us to take a little bit longer if we have mismatched boxes or we don't know what boxes we have in stock, right? So that can add time to it. Cutting out labels. Okay, cutting out labels, that adds time to it. You're sitting there with a pair of scissors. At the very least, you've got one of the choppers that you use to chop paper. At the very least, you're using one of those, right? And that's faster than using scissors. But I guarantee you, a lot of people that are still cutting their labels, they're using scissors. So you got boxes, cutting out labels, filler material. Okay, all of these add time, right? Each one of these is adding time to this 12 to 18-minute mark. And so what you're doing is you're creating a process that's questioning this process. You're saying, how do I change this process to be faster? And so maybe for you, maybe it's the label printer and maybe it's peanuts, or maybe it's the label printer and only buying brand new boxes. Maybe it's just buying brand new boxes, whichever one best suits you. But I'm going to tell you that by implementing these three things, label printer, brand new boxes, using peanuts, and then having a functional packaging space, you will shift your business and what you're able to get out the door. Now that's important because the faster you can ship, the more you can afford to sell. And then, it's not such a bad idea. Some people I know that they have their handling time set to 2 to 3 days because they don't like handling their packages as soon as they sell. For me, we got to the point where it's like, hey, this thing just sold. It's out of here by 2 o'clock. UPS is coming to pick it up at 2. It's out the door. So that was a big thing. Now let's talk about some of the other things that you have that you can use to grow your business. Carrier pickup. If you're not using carrier pickup, you should be. Especially if you're selling more than a couple of items a day, you should be scheduling your items to be picked up. And let me tell you why. So, USPS has a program for their carriers where they actually get credit and a bonus for picking packages up and scanning them in on their route. It's a real thing. I didn't know about this until a couple of months ago when I was talking to the people over our post office, the postmaster, and they were explaining to me how it works when they send someone to our house to pick up packages. So, carrier pickup, UPS will pick up, FedEx will pick up, USPS will pick up. So those are a couple of things. Now, the next thing is outsource this whole thing. You can literally have somebody package all your items and ship them out. Do I think it's a good way to make money? No, I don't. If you have like a UPS store packaging your item and shipping it out, you've got to have your cost of goods down so low so that you can afford that packaging service. It is literally the worst idea to do to pay a UPS store or a mailboxes, etc., to package your item. They are charging you top dollar. And unless you have a serious amount of profit in that item, you're going to lose money. What I'm saying though is hire someone. Okay, you can hire almost anyone and teach them how to package. All it is a system, right? It's just a process. So if you are packaging and you are shipping out 20, 30, 40 items a day, it might be in your best interest to just hire someone. You can pay them per package that they ship out, or you can pay them by the hour. It doesn't matter. We've done both. Um, it is a really simple process to teach, especially once you have this breakdown and you have your label printer and your Uline and your peanuts. Um, Once you have all this, there's no reason why not to hire somebody and put them in that position at a lower level employee, right? All they're doing is packaging items and maybe taking them and dropping them off. We preferred having the carriers come and pick up. We just did. So these are all things to think about. Get yourself a label printer. Start using brand new boxes. You want to get to here, your business needs to look professional. It needs to look like that's where you belong. Start acting like you belong there. Start using packing peanuts or something similar to that. When I say packing peanuts, the reason I like that so much is because of how fast we can package. Um, Look at your packaging space. How are you packaging? How do you have your table set up? Does it flow right? Does it hinder you on your packaging and the way that you're able to package? Or does it flow really well and you can move and package really quickly all the way through it? I can't tell you how often we used to package as a team. Clarissa on one side of the table and me on the other side of the table. And we would just knock out 30, 40 packages really fast. Um, if you do it that way, if you have a partner you're working with, you can package a lot of stuff really quickly because you've got several processes that you can break down as a team. So look at that. Look at hiring somebody to take over all of your packaging from the top. And now, when I say hire somebody as well, you guys, if you have a store on eBay, you're paying for the subscription store, you have the ability to go in and create a couple more users on your account that may not, and you can control what they actually have access to. If you have somebody creating listings, you can control what they're able to do. If you have somebody doing packaging, you can control that they are able to package, right? You can make it to where that's all they see. You can do those things on the backside of eBay. So if you're worried about them getting in your eBay and going crazy, you don't have to worry about that. You can set that up to manage them really, really well. Anyway, my question for you today is to take this and start looking at how long does it take you to package one item. Is it in the 12 to 18 minute range? Is it in the 10-minute range? Where are you in your packaging timeline, right? And then let's take a look at these things and see what you could implement in to where we can break this process down for you to make it faster. Because if we can make it faster, it's just that much quicker to getting to your six figures on eBay. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this and gotten some value on it. As always, if you have questions, please leave it in the comments and I'll try to get to it as quickly as possible. Hope you guys have a wonderful day and we'll talk to you later.